Hi everyone, my name is Megan Raymond. I'm director of the Jefferson Public Citizens Program, and I'm here with
Brian Colati, the Associate Director of the Jefferson Public Citizens Program.
and this is a series of instructional videos for students to help you all apply to the Jefferson Public Citizens Program. And we are going through each part of the application step by step and posting these videos on YouTube. So we've already done a video on the proposal section and the cover sheet, and today we're going to talk about budget and work plan and other parts of the application. So let's go ahead and dive in. What you're looking at here on the screen is a mock application or a guide that we'll have up on the JPC website, and we're looking at the budget section. And this is a kind of an intimidating piece the first time you start out, but I think we'll just kind of walk through it each section and give you a sense of some things to think about. First and foremost, we'll dive into the question of stipends for team members. And I think the way to think about this is stipends are really to ensure that all the team members can focus their time and energy on the JPC project. For some students, sometimes summers have to be spent working at part-time jobs, and that might preclude the possibility of participating in JPC. So by having a stipend, that means everybody can focus their time on the project and commit to all the work that's involved with JPC. And you'll hear in some of the other JPC videos talk from students or JPC alumni about how much time they spent on their project, and it can be several hours or many hours a week, particularly in the summer. It can almost be the equivalent of a full-time job. So that's sort of how stipends work. And then let's talk a little bit about travel expenses.
This next section is for students who are traveling to do their JPC project, and we want you to just itemize the things that you'll be paying for related to that travel. And you can use this as a guide. There may be other expenses that come up, and that's okay. You can put those in here too. These are some of the things we see most often. And we have an example budget at the bottom of the page, which you can click on and see how we've itemized the cost of this and then calculated the subtotal as well.
You want to pull that up now?
Sure.
Here it is. So this is the sample budget, and as Brian mentioned, there's a link at the bottom of the application to this, and it's off of the JPC website.
So you can see the cost of plane tickets, and you would want to include the amount for each person, but then over in the right-hand column you would want to total it up, so we would have a subtotal of all your costs there. Some other things that you may not necessarily think about that I might not be thinking about if I was traveling abroad, but things like medical. You may have immunizations depending if you're traveling to a country where you need to get a malaria immunization, for example. But those are some of the things you want to be thinking about. And again, these are on the sample budget. It is just a sample, so you need to dig in and see what those things actually cost.
Yeah, these are all fictional numbers. They're not real, but we thought we'd put together what most JPC budgets for an international trip kind of look like. We also understand that sometimes plane ticket prices change, but you do want to go ahead and do some research and probably even round up a little bit at the time you apply and what you think that might be. So that's sort of the travel piece. Project materials. This is to actually conduct your project. You might be building something. We have here pipes, boards, nails, for example. Or you may be traveling abroad and need to pay a local translator. You may need to rent space for focus groups, that kind of thing. So really talk to your faculty advisor, or if you have a graduate mentor, and help brainstorm all the things that may come up that you would need to pay for. Your community partner can also give you some good insight into how much these things cost. You also may want to print up a report or photos or flyers, so including things like that in your budget here. And the maximum that you can get for a JPC grant is $30,000. So that's the maximum. If you're going to request over that amount, we won't be funding over that amount. But sometimes I've had groups say, well, our total project is 35 and we're going to look for the 5 elsewhere, but this is what we're asking from JPC. I think that's fine. It's important to show the review committee that you've done good research and really thought through every little piece of your project and how much it might cost or what kind of money you'd need to have. Anything else on budget?
Just one other thing I would say is try to be as accurate as possible and also as honest as possible, in the sense that you may see the $30,000 total there and say to yourself, well, how can we get up to $30,000? But really, that looks a little suspicious when the committee's reading the budget. It looks like some things were maybe just added in there that aren't really going to be part of your project. So the more accurate you can be with this budget, I think the more, or it shows that you've been very thoughtful in the process, and I think it reflects on you well when you have an accurate assessment of your totals.
Yeah, I agree. And this takes time, so plan to go through a few drafts of a budget. Don't expect that you'll get it right the first time. And I can't say enough, triple and quadruple check your math. Every year we've got budgets that don't add up correctly, and that always gives the review committee pause as to whether or not we want to give a group of students several $1,000s if they can't actually add it all up correctly. So double check your math. So let's move on to talking about the work plan.
This work plan is something that, again, is meant to be somewhat of a guide. We like the columns that are here and the things that we've put down for you, but at the same time we realize that each project is going to be unique. So you may want to take this and design your own tool that works for you the best, and you may want to include some of these categories here, but it may be helpful for you to go onto an Excel spreadsheet and format it in a way that's helpful for you. But what we're looking for here is to see that you have a well laid out plan for your project and that the details are taken care of and you have thought through everything you're going to do and who's going to be responsible for that, when it's going to happen. And so essentially this is your roadmap for your project. And again, the more accurate it can be, and we realize that it is going to change, but the more clarity and accuracy you have, the more it's going to show the committee that you've really thought through your plan for the project.
Yeah, I would second that, Brian, because I feel like the review committee looks at the work plan very closely. It reveals how well thought out the project is, how well the team members are working together, how much conversation and collaboration they've had with their community partner. I think the big misstep applicants make is trying to do too much in too little time and not really thinking of all the steps within steps that need to be taken to get the project done. So the ones that I've seen that have been successful often are reformatted in something like Excel and have a very clear step-by-step guidelines to themselves, to the group themselves, about how they're going to get the project done. I feel like this should be something you can share with your community partner as well, so that they feel like they can expect certain things to happen by certain dates, and that helps get everybody's expectations calibrated. And again, I would refer you all to your faculty advisor for advice on things like this. When they're writing grants, they have to do these kinds of work plans as well. Also, past JPC projects or contacting JPC alumni and asking for examples of their work plans can be very helpful too. So that's another suggestion. We didn't put up specific examples here because each project is so different. I think it would be really hard to follow someone else's work plan.
So this is our next section. It was just the team member section. Well, we realize that all of you are working together as a team, but you're also individuals. And so we want to know what each person on the team is going to contribute to the team. And this is this section here will give us an indication of that. So what we ask is that each team member fill out this team member application. So if you have 5 people on your team, you would end up having 5 of these put together in your final application. And this is a place where your individuality gets to come out and you can express the roles that you're going to play on the team. You may have a person who's very competent in statistics, and they're going to sort of be your statistics person, and they're going to analyze your data. And so in this section, their statement of purpose, they can explain that, how they fit into the overall team scheme here.
Mm-hmm. I think that the best team member applications I've read are when that particular person is really clear about what they're contributing to the project, what part of it they're going to perform, and then they make a connection back to prior experience, either leadership role they've had in student clubs, volunteer experience in high school, or classes they've taken, or even other lectures they've attended around grounds. So all of that matters. And if you're traveling internationally, referencing previous travel experience, foreign language skills, all of that goes here.
And the committee will be paying attention to this as well, because they'll look at your work plan, they'll look at the proposal that you've already done, and they'll see pieces. For instance, if you said that you were going to have a language interpreter and someone on your team is going to be a language interpreter, they would want to see in this section that you have someone who would fulfill that role.
Exactly. And this is also if you've got traveling abroad and people, you need foreign language skills. If you only have one person in your group who can speak the language, that's sort of what we call a single point of failure, meaning if something happens and that person cannot participate in JPC, how is your group going to address it? So those kind of questions come up on the study abroad form as well, but something to address here. All right, moving on to goals.
This is a new section this year, and it's part of the ongoing evaluation that we're doing for JPC. But we want students to have an opportunity to express what they think they want to get out of JPC, essentially. And so this is a section for you to do that, to write down the 3 goals specific to you and what you want to accomplish through the JPC program. And really, these goals are somewhat up to you in terms of things that you want to work on. For instance, we say here, you might want to improve your writing. So this is the place to write by the end of the JPC program, I want to become a better writer. And then we hope to have an opportunity at the end of the project for you to reflect back on these goals and see how far along you came in accomplishing them.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good description. They're really just specific to the individual team member. They can be technical skills, intellectual skills. You may want to improve your language skills. They can also be personal growth. You're looking for a challenge, or you want to become a better team member. All those kinds of things. That's what goes in this box about learning goals. And then there's a second item here about goals for the JPC project. So this is a little different. These are goals that you and your teammates have for the overall project, either what you want to accomplish, things that you want to see done, what you plan to get done. It may even also reflect back on you want to work well as a team, or everybody gains fluency in a language, but there should be some goals here that are project-wide, not the individual person. Anything else to add on goals?
Did you mention, Megan, that they could all be the same for the team? Yeah, so you might be saying, well, my goals are the same as my teammates' goals for the project, and that's okay. You can share goals here. If every team member has the same goals, they can all put the same answers here. But we want to leave it open to some variation as well.
Exactly. So feel free to share goals. That makes sense. Otherwise, you'd have up to 15 or 20 goals, which is too much for one project. So after each team member application, there's this team member endorsement page. It's pretty straightforward on reading and agreeing to comply with some of the award expectations and policies. Also, for international students, if you're applying, you probably want to check with someone in the International Studies office about how it may affect your visa status. There are some different tax rules around receiving funding. So again, JPC cannot give tax advice, but I encourage you to do some of those preliminary investigations while you're applying. And then an unofficial transcript. So you don't have to get one mailed to you with a seal from the registrar's office. You can just print one off. Okay, everyone, that wraps up the team member section of the JPC application. Our next video will talk about faculty advisor letters, community partner letters, and some final requirements from the IRB and the International Studies Office. So stay tuned and check out the JPC YouTube channel for all of our other videos on how to complete your JPC application.